Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and our goal and our mission is to empower and educate musicians and artists worldwide. And on today's episode, we sat down with 4 times platinum Grammy-nominated producer Jbeatzz discussing his start at Stankonia, how it felt to be nominated for a Grammy, and how building relationships has elevated his career. Hey, it's Sammy for another episode of the IdOMUSIC podcast, and I'm sitting down with 4 times platinum Grammy-nominated producer Jbeatzz. What up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Right. Happy to have you here. I know that you're busy, you're traveling, and always working.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to meet you over at the Native Instruments event.
Yes, with Carmen. I was actually going to talk about that. Like you, when I first met, or that was my first time meeting you, I knew Raven, who you work with, so already. So it was a pleasure to see, mutual friends, and then obviously Carmen, knowing you and having you there, that was good to see. And I know he always knows and is connected to great people and just like good energy.
Yeah, the synergy. Period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you were literally speaking to everybody in the room.
Yeah.
You're like a very humble guy. I had no idea like your background, who you'd work with prior to. How important is it for you to continue making those connections and building relationships, despite the fact that you've worked with the likes of Big Boy to most recently Nicki and Travis Scott?
Yeah, just duplicating the process, just keeping the same way I did it in the beginning, still do it now currently, but also evolving my sound, just always evolving, but still keeping the same traits that kept me going.
And what traits would you say those are?
Well, definitely positive energy, keeping a great aura. Treating people with respect. You never know who's the next big thing. Just treating everyone in the room with the same level of respect that you would like. I tend to do that a lot.
When I tell y'all he literally spoke to everyone, like I was just so. I usually am more of like a fly on the wall. Like I don't really go out of my way in those types of environments because essentially we went to this. What was it? I don't know the name of the event, but it was a Native
Instruments base. It was just a Native Instruments mixer.
Yeah, a mixer
for all producers.
Exactly.
In the Atlanta area. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of producers and people were showcasing their work. They were playing beats, and so in those types of environments, I like to just watch and observe. But you came by, you're like, hey, how you doing? And we had an actual conversation. So I appreciated that about you.
Yeah, for sure.
So can we talk about your very first introduction to music, like the first time? I mean, I don't know how old you were or where you were, but talk about that moment.
You mean music period?
Music period.
Music period. Well,
yeah.
It all started, my grandfather, he played actually at Carnegie Hall. He was an opera singer.
Wow.
And he played the organ. He was really good, so. But as a kid, I couldn't stand that music.
Yeah, of course.
Every time I go to my grandparents' house, he's always singing opera, playing on that organ. He just drove me crazy. I just wanted to hear rock and roll and rap music.
Right.
I was like, well, I don't want to hear this. Can I swear in here?
Yeah, you can.
I ain't want to hear this shit.
But people are always so surprised. Like, is this appropriate? Yeah, you're fine. You can say whatever.
All right, for sure. That was when I was first introduced to a period, but not knowing. That I eventually joined a school band. I played in band,
What'd you play?
Drums, percussion. I was a percussionist, did all the percussion sounds,
That makes sense.
Yeah, And then just later in my life, I saw this music maker. It was on PlayStation 2. I was at Toys R Us. I'm sorry, Toys R Us is out of business. Rest in peace, right. Toys R Us. I was at Toys R Us, and I saw this. It's called Magic's Music Maker for $19.99 for PlayStation 2. I was like, this thing looks cool.
Yeah.
So I bought it. And then I just, it was just loops. I thought I was making beats. I was just laying loops, thinking I was making beats, And,
right.
And I was like, man, this is pretty cool.
About how old were you at that moment?
At that moment, let's see, that was what? I was probably 2002, something like that. 2000. Yeah, I was 2002, 2003. So, do I got to reveal my age? Nah.
No, you don't. You don't. I was just wondering how old you were at that point.
If you know how to add, you know how old I am. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, and then when I got that game, I was like, all right, this is cool. So that year, I got my money up and I bought a Roland MC 909, a MIDI keyboard and some speakers, and just started making beats for real. And then
wow,
yeah.
So at a point, you being from Hartford, Connecticut, right?
Yeah, I was born in Hartford, Connecticut, and then I was raised in New London, Connecticut. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious how you grew up and what you saw in your day-to-day surroundings, because I went to school not far from Connecticut in D.C. and so I have friends, and they told me when they moved to DC or when they moved to another major city, they realized how different it was for them.
Yeah.
And in terms of like what you're around, being that you ended up going to Full Sail and then eventually moving to Atlanta,
exactly,
very different. So I'm wondering, like, what were you seeing? I know you were in a band, but like, what were you seeing just like day to day growing up?
Like,
was there a scene there? Like, were you going to parties? Were there DJs around? Like, what type of music?
Well, I was influenced by East Coast hip hop, like the 90s music, like Styles, the Locks, Bad Boy, of course, Tupac, Biggie, that whole era, that whole, even Busta Rhymes. I bought Busta Rhymes' first album, The Coming, on cassette. You know what I mean? So I came up through the analog world. You know what I mean? I was buying tapes in 96, 97, 98, 99, that whole New York hip hop era, mixtapes and all that, and that's really where I was introduced to hip hop. Like even Cypress Hill, I used to like the old Cypress Hill music. Like one of my favorite Cypress Hill albums is Temples of Boom.
Oh wow.
I just like the sounds. I use a lot of like crazy Indian sounds on that album. So that's how I was introduced to hip hop, coming from there. It's a big East Coast scene, like I'm only like 2 hours from New York City.
Right.
So it was heavy New York influence.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to pursue music by going to Full Sail? Like why did you make that decision?
Yeah, it was, well, of course, I grew up, in Connecticut. Of course, New York City is right next door. I've been to New York. I actually checked out a couple schools in New York. Well, before I get to there, it's like, I want to get in the business. I want to do something. I want to do something great, but I knew no one in the industry. I had no family members, no friends. I didn't know anyone in the business. So, I was like, how can I get in? And at the time I was thinking about joining the military. I was about to join the Army. Like, my first son was born. I was like, I got to do something with my life. You know what I mean? So
you got a responsibility.
Yeah. So through that transformation, a good friend of mine, Ray, we was working. I was a cook at the time. I was cooking in Chili's restaurant. I was a chef, a line cook.
Wow.
And he was saying, because he was a rapper, and I was recording him on my beats. So, that was like the first rapper I ever recorded, the first album I ever did with a ghetto album cover, But it was, this is all part, it's part of the process, And he was just looking at schools. He's like, yeah, they got schools in New York City. I was like, they got schools for this shit? I was like, I didn't even think it was real. I didn't even know.
Right.
So I did my research, and I checked out 2 schools in New York City. And then, it's like I never left the East Coast. I've always been like Connecticut, New England my whole life. So I was like, I found out they had a school in Orlando, Florida. And I was like, man, I want to see some tribe. I want to get out of here, see some palm trees. So I went down there, and the vibe was great, I ended up enrolling. I was able to figure out how to get the loan and the money. It was a miracle, but I figured it out,
Yeah.
And
because it's kind of expensive.
Extremely expensive, But financial aid and a private investor that helped out,
Facts.
Yeah.
Look, that's a blessing. I'm not even gonna get into it, but that's a blessing. So attending Full Sail, tell us like what you learned during that time. Being in Orlando, being in a new environment, and also focusing specifically only on music at a point.
I learned the art of engineering. Like Full Sail, it's a fast program, but if you actually pay attention, you actually learn a lot. A lot of people complain, oh, they don't do nothing for me, this and this. But it's like anything in life. You get what you put into it.
Right.
So I went in there, with a real state of mind. I quit smoking weed the whole time I was there. You know what I mean? And this goes from a guy smoking weed every day to just quitting so I could focus.
That's what's up.
And I actually did. I passed with honors. I got straight A's. But
awesome.
I'm a CB student to straight A's because I found something I was interested in.
Exactly.
And then after I graduated, I was thinking either going back to Connecticut, looking for work for New York. I was thinking LA, but at the time it wasn't really feasible. So I was like, I got my car. I was like, I'm just going to drive to Atlanta because, the hip hop scene was
What was
huge.
going on at the time? Like, what did you know was in Atlanta? Like
Young Jeezy.
Young Jeezy.
It was Young Jeezy's era. Yeah, it was the Jeezy era. The Yin Yang Twins. When they was all, it was during that era.
Right.
So I was like, let me just drive up there and see what's popping. And I literally, I had a MapQuest. I MapQuest Atlanta,
wow,
Georgia.
TBT.
Yeah.
For real.
I MapQuest how to get to Atlanta, Georgia, and I just literally drove here and just got a hotel for a week and got in the phone book and looked up every single recording studio in Atlanta.
And just called.
And just called and knocked doors and said, hey, I'm looking for an entry-level position,
Wow.
And Stankonia happened to be, place I chose to go. You know, they chose me, I chose them, you know.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you just from cold calls and knocking on doors.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Just shoot your shot, really.
Yeah.
So
story of my life. Yeah.
Wow. The story. So you do that often. You take those types of risks.
Yeah. I do great on cold call and acting on the fly. Yeah. I think. I do great on that type of pressure.
So
what pressure? Yeah.
Would you say that was one of the best decisions you could have made for your career in terms of moving to Atlanta?
Absolutely. It's where it really started. It's where I really got to learn about the South and, you know, the culture and, you know, and just vibing with some great legends out here, you know.
How soon did you realize there was something special, I guess, about Atlanta, especially the music that was being created?
I mean, I knew before I got here because I was like, man, you know, the South is huge right now. Like, even when I was living in Connecticut, before I went to school, like, my first car I bought, I had 3 10-inch subwoofers, and I was bumping Lil Jon and the East Side Boys.
Facts.
You know,
all were.
Yeah, I just love the bass. You
Right.
know, I just love how that bass sounded. You know,
Facts.
Yeah.
So you were always just very interested in the music because every time you describe a song or you talk about, like, you know, you reminisce on a song, you talk about the beat. Or like the sounds. Yeah,
always intrigued by the sounds. Of course, listen to the vocals, but the sounds always intrigued me. You know, especially like bass and just chords. Yeah, just a lot of certain sounds will take me to a certain place or a certain time in my life. You know, certain albums will, you know, is like a timeline. You know.
Yeah. So after you landed the gig at Stankonia, what were you learning in the process? Like, what was it that you were responsible for doing? Were you interning? Were you know?
Yeah, I started out as an intern, you know, so, you know, answering phones, you know, making runs, all the basic stuff. And, you know, just learning studio etiquette, just being cool, you know, just not being too pushy, trying to, hey, I got this, I got that. You know, you just got to, you know, build your relationships and wait your time.
So was the goal always in the beginning to do production?
Yeah. The goal was always production, you know, and after a while I was like, well, I know how to engineer too. So, you know, I did both, you know. Right. So when the production works, you know, when you're coming in as an intern, 9 out of 10 times, don't no one want to hear your beats. They don't want to hear that.
Right. They don't want you to
they don't want to hear that.
Record the session.
Just do your job. We don't want to hear that, you know. So I had to build a relationship over time through engineering, you know what I mean, assisting, engineering, you know, just doing whatever needs to get done to help, you know, keep the ship sailing, you know. And then eventually I had an opportunity to play Big Boy some beats, you know, and he actually selected one for his album, the Sir Lucius Left Foot album.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to break out of the intern engineer thing into production. That was my first big break, you know.
So building that relationship with Big Boy, how did that come about? How did you even get into the space to where you were able to play the beat? Like, can you reminisce on that story?
Yeah, for sure. You know, just like I said, just being humble, being cool with everyone, you know, doing your job. People always told me that, you know, that they see me doing big things, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. And I know it seems long, but good things will happen. So I developed a good relationship with his Uncle Darnell, you know, and he was the one that actually played him the beat. He was like, listen to this beat, Big, you know, and we listened to the beat in like 4 different rooms in the studio. And then I actually recorded his first verse that night. So I got production and engineering credit.
That's fire.
Yeah.
That's dope. How did you feel in that moment?
Oh, I felt like I was the shit. You know? Yeah. It was a huge moment. You know, we we vibed. We was drinking Hennessy, and you know, it was just a vibe. It was just a vibe, and that first verse goes hard. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
General Patton.
General Patton, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
That record did really well. The single landed a major NFL playoffs moment.
Yep. Pepsi
commercial
Max.
with Pepsi.
Yep.
And how did you even feel when that came about? Because I mean, initially you were able to, you know, get Uncle Darnell to record the beat. I mean, to play him the beat.
Yeah.
And then you ended up recording the song. But did you see it going that far with that particular record?
At the moment, it was just a vibe. But the beat hitting so hard, I was like, this shit go hard. And then even like his, you know, other people in the camp, was like, man, that shit go hard. You know, like everyone was just giving me compliments, you know, because it was my moment to seize my opportunity.
Right.
You know?
So with the commercial though, like when you saw it, what were your feelings when you found out?
I thought it was cool. I was,
what the hell?
I was like, because he also changed the words for the NFL playoffs.
Right.
So he actually rapped like football terms. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's so dope.
I was like, this is fucking dope. You know.
That's amazing.
yeah.
So let me ask you, how was the process leading up to your first placement? We talked about you were interning, you started engineering sessions.
Yeah.
Can you recall moments where you were, for lack of better words, down bad? Like, how did you or do you stay encouraged during those challenging times?
Well, yeah. When you say down bad, because around that moment, before, you know, the beat got selected, I was like, man, I can't do this internship much longer. I'm about to do something else or find something else to do or work for another. I got to do something. This shit ain't working. This shit ain't, if something don't happen, I got to go, you know? So when I was starting to feel like that, that was when that moment happened. It was kind of like God, like, okay, you know,
you've waited long enough.
He's waited long enough. Let's give him a shot. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much how that happened. Yeah.
So let me ask you, how do you view success? Because I know, you know, you're still working every day towards your goals and your dreams.
Absolutely.
How do you view success? How would you define that?
To me, you know, success, you know, is definitely, you know, state of mind, of course, you know, happiness. To me, success is happiness, balance, you know, balance in your life as well as your personal and your business life, you know what I mean? You know, taking care of things, being able to take care of your family, being able to pay your bills, being able to invest. So to me, success is a legacy, leaving a legacy, you know what I mean? And that's what
would you want your legacy to say about you?
That I came, I saw, and I conquered.
Period.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, let's go into, you know, just the production environment for you. How do you enjoy I'm sorry, my phone's dropping.
Oh, you good.
How do you like the environment while you're creating music?
How do I like the environment when I'm creating music?
Yeah, you know, some people like it cold in the room. They like it really hot.
I do like it cold. I like the lights dimmed. And I like being by myself or maybe having one other person around me. You know, and then once it's made, then everyone could come in the room and I can show off, you know? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're more of a, like, I like to be in my own space first and then
I like having someone around me because I like the energy, at least someone to talk to, just while I'm doing it, at least I have someone to talk to, you know?
Someone that knows music or someone that's just like, you like their energy and their vibes?
Someone I like their energy and their vibes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you, you know, you've been in the game for over 10 years.
Yes.
You've had the opportunity to work with, you know, like we've already talked about Big Boy, but, you know, you've at this point worked with some really big legends from A-list artists.
Yes.
How do you continue to stay relevant with the 10 years under your belt in this business so far?
Just evolution, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was in Atlanta for like, 8-9 years, and then I transitioned over to Los Angeles. I moved to LA, and then that's really when I was able to find my sound, you know?
When'd you move to LA?
Well, it was like 2000, it was August 2015.
Oh, wow. And what made you make that decision? Like, why'd you feel like you needed to go to LA?
It's just a lot of things, you know, things going on in my personal life and in my business life. I felt like I was at a wall. So I felt like I hit a wall in my career and my life. So I was like, I need to change. So, I need to change myself. Maybe I need to change my environment. So I just went out there, you know, just to go out there for, a couple months. And then ended up landing a gig. You know, I took a gig out there and been able to build from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what is the scene in LA? Because, like, I mean, we've both been there, but in terms of music, do you find it to be more beneficial that you're connecting the dots a little bit better there, or because I know you're back and forth?
No, I'm back and forth because like Atlanta is where my career started. So I have a lot of I'm well known in the city. I have a lot of great relationships here. You know, it's cheaper to live here.
Right.
So I fly out to LA all the time. I'm back and forth now, but I got a place out here again now too. So I'm just back and forth with it. But what was your question? I want to make sure I answer your question.
Just like, in terms of the industry in LA for music specifically, how do you find it beneficial to be there?
LA is a lot diverse. You know, like what I mean by diverse, like Atlanta's mostly like hip hop, R&B. Right. You know what I mean? Which is what's going on anyway. But like out in LA, EDM, pop.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on. But everyone who's in Atlanta is in LA working anyway. Atlanta's just the hub. The home base.
True. So, let me ask you about your relationship to a Grammy Award-winning producer, Detail.
Yeah.
Because that kind of got you into some other situations as well.
No,
just having that.
Sure.
How'd you meet? How'd you link up?
Yeah, no. That's exactly what happened when I first moved to LA. I was introduced to him, and he needed an engineer. Okay. So I was introduced to his team
Isn't it great to have that skill to be able to do that?
I'm a producer that knows how to engineer.
Yeah.
That's how I stayed alive when the producing work was low. I kept myself, that's how I stayed swimming in the deep end,
Thanks.
And it's funny because, actually Full Sail actually gave me the lead. I kept in contact with them when I left Atlanta. I was like, just let me know if you have any leads in LA. and they gave me a solid lead. Of course, I had to, go and meet and greet with the team, and they selected me out of whoever. So I took the gig as an engineer, and I started building that bond with him. And then through all that, I was able to, land some placements with Nicki Minaj, Travis Scott, and I actually, recorded with Future and been in the studio, with Miguel. A lot of top-notch artists. Just
Pineapple Skies was a great record.
Yeah. I assisted with detail on that record. Yep, me and him worked on that together.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So, how did it feel to be nominated for a Grammy with your recent work with Travis Scott?
Man, it felt amazing. It felt really great. I felt like I'm seeing like my years of work, paying off.
Yeah, the fruits of your labor.
The fruits of my labor, absolutely.
So, how did you land the opportunity in the first place? Like, I mean, you worked with. That was with Mike Dean, Stevie Wonder was on there with the harmonica. I didn't even know or realize that was a thing.
No, it was just a loop from
Oh, it was a loop.
Well, no, got the loop from Jbeatzz, and just put the beat together. Anyway, whatever. Just being in the studio, there's a studio in Hollywood we was at, and the beat was heard in the room, and they cut the record. That's pretty much how that happened. So,
that's dope.
Yeah.
It sounds like you just got to be in the room.
You got to be in a room. You got to be around. You got to have your relationships, And when I went to LA, I was blessed to get a strong relationship with someone who's really plugged in the business, and I was able to, rise to the occasion and bring what I bring to the table.
Okay. And what advice would you give to a producer aside from, the much needed advice that you just said here, like in terms of being in those spaces, being a good person, but like, how do you feel like an up-and-coming producer could get themselves in these positions if they don't have a Full Sail connection, or if they don't have, what advice would you give to them? Because, you said it yourself, you didn't come from a background of, like, just a family who was so involved in music aside from your grandfather.
Yeah. Also, my uncle's a professional drummer, too. I left that part out.
Dope. Is that who inspired you to be a percussionist?
He bought me my first drumsticks. Yes, that's who inspired me to be a percussionist in school.
Shout out to Uncle.
Uncle Greg, yeah. Uncle G. Yeah,
Uncle G.
Yeah.
Shout out to Uncle G.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's always some sort of influence, be it family member or, a family friend, or just or sometimes we're just inspired by the artists that we love.
Yeah, for sure.
But like to a producer who just has never seen it before, but they know that they really are interested in production, what advice would you give to them, trying to shoot their shot at certain artists?
Yeah, just get in the arena, develop your sound, be around people who are doing it, of course, just put yourself in that realm and just keep shooting. But you got to know when to take your shot, too, because that's the thing, because if you take your shot too early, it might be too soon. So you got to know when to take your shot. So you got to train, you got to learn, and just learn and build relationships. However you got to do it, just figure out loopholes, figure out ways, be creative. You know what I mean? Like, if you know someone likes something, maybe you could provide what they like, and now they will let you in the room because you gave them something that they liked,
right? On
a personal level, and then now they listen to your beats, or just be helpful, just bring something to the table, just add value.
Yeah, always add value. It's important.
Yeah,
for sure. Why? So we talked about you being back and forth between the markets, but why is it important to travel in your line of work, like to as often as you do travel back and forth from LA, but also, you were in Miami. I don't know if that was a personal. Happy belated, by the way.
Yeah, well, this Miami trip was personal, but I work in Miami too. That's when the Nicki thing happened. I was in Miami for almost 2 months.
Oh, really? That's where that record happened.
Working on Nicki's project. Yeah,
dope. Yeah. See, and that's what I'm saying though. Like, you kind of have to be wherever you need to be.
Yeah.
Why is that important though? To just be accessible. And to be able to move.
Well, yeah, it keeps everything fresh. Because, if you're just in the same city, for however long, you sometimes you get bored. Just different. It's good to be around different energies to get that. It's like a refresh. It's like a refresher. So when you come back home, you're like, okay, well, I know what I need to do. Or when you're out there, you're just so inspired, and you just get so much done, so much accomplished because you're in a certain state of mind where you're just motivated because it just keeps things fresh.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as any creative producer, artist, if you create content, it's always important to have like a new, fresh perspective. You do get really complacent when you're in a certain space. So I can agree with that 100%.
Like me, I love the ocean and the beach. So like when I go to LA or Miami, first thing I do straight off the airplane, I go straight to the beach.
Really?
And I pray and meditate and put my feet in the water and you know, and bless myself, you know.
Absolutely. How important is that sense of balance? I know you mentioned that you have your son, so I'm assuming you said your oldest son.
Yeah,
so you have
four children.
You have 4 children.
Yeah.
So balancing that, you know, doing all that you're doing, still trying to grind it out and create more placements for yourself. How important is that balance, you know, with family, your personal life?
Man, it's so important. It's extremely important, you know. It's just, but you know, like,
how do you do it?
Well, you know the famous saying, God ain't gonna give you nothing you can't handle. You know,
I know that's right.
Yeah, so,
I know that's right.
So how do I do it? I just do it. You know, like Nike. You know.
Facts. I mean, shoot, I struggle, and I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast or who have sat down with me always talk about this struggle of, you know, trying to see their kids grow up or, you know, and having to make certain decisions.
I definitely had to make sacrifices. You know, like when I first went to California, it was like I just spoke to my children on FaceTime for like the first maybe like 4 or 5, even 4 or 5 months. Then I flew back, you know, to visit and everything. So it's definitely a sacrifice, but think about it. Guys in the military get deported for a year, you know, and then they come back, you know, making minimum wage. And that's crappy. That's horrible. You know what I mean? So me sacrificing 6 months to a year, you know, to be able to enjoy the fruits of my labor that I put in 10 years is a small token to pay if you look at it from the long. If you look at it from a big scale, it's actually not that huge of a token. But going through it is hard. Getting through those days and nights, thinking about when am I going to see my babies again, and this and this and that, you know, and you know, being alone a lot. You know, it's you know, it's the cost of being a boss, I guess. You know, it sucks, but it's the way life works sometimes.
So, I mean, you know, even with balancing all of that, though, you know, you've built a team around you, or you're building a team around you.
For sure.
How did you build that for yourself? Like, I know, at least for me, it's been difficult to find people who are like-minded, who share my vision or share a vision to work with. Has that been a process for you as well? Or?
A huge process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm always building and rebuilding, you know what I mean? Because, you know, people come and go, you know what I mean? But, you know, the one person who's really been helping me a lot is still, you know, is helping me out really consistently with a lot of my work, you know. Shout out to Raven, you know.
For sure.
Shout out to Detail, you know, Bernard, you know, shout out to my whole team, you know what I mean? You know, Big Boy, you know, appreciate everyone, you know.
And what sort of people would you say is important to have around you as a producer? Like, in your line of work, like what roles and responsibilities were you looking to, you know, have around you to make your life easier?
Like, give me an example. Sorry.
Like, you know, a manager or a lawyer, or you know what I mean? Like, what sort of things do you feel like you need that you can't do to add to your team?
Well, you need a lawyer. You need a manager. You need
a manager. You think?
To an extent.
Okay.
I mean, because I managed myself my whole career.
Right.
You know, and then recently, I have a few, you know, a manager, you know, I have a few people who help me out, you know what I mean? But my agreement with them is you eat what you kill, because I have clients and I get a lot of my work on my own.
Right.
So it was like.
So if you provide something for me, then.
If you bring something to the table, then you get your cut.
Gotcha.
That's how I'm doing my management deals these days. You know,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I think that's fair.
It's fair enough. Yeah, because I'm over 12 years in the game, so I built these relationships myself. By sacrificing and being in these studios and away from my family for long periods of time. So if that manager or whoever wasn't there with me, then why should he eat off of everything that I do?
Facts.
You know?
I agree. And
no disrespect. It is what it is.
Right. No, and I think that's a very smart thing to do. But so would you say? So you would say that the management is not necessary for a producer, being that you did it for so long?
It depends. It's necessary depending on your level.
Got you.
It depends on the level that you're at. If you're just at home hitting on the table, maybe not. But maybe you might need that manager because that manager has connections you don't have.
Facts.
But you have that relationship with the manager, and the manager believes in you, so the manager can put you in those rooms. If that's the situation, then get a manager.
Right.
It just depends. You know, different strokes, different folks. But if you creating those avenues yourself, then put yourself in there. You know what I mean? And just have the manager or assistant take the calls and, you know, and run the business, you know, and handle the numbers and put you in the studio or whatever, you know?
Facts. So I know you're celebrating your birthday in Atlanta soon, even though it just passed recently. Happy belated again.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, because you seem like such a humble, just very like easygoing guy.
Yeah.
But how do you celebrate your wins if you do?
I like to go to the club and pop a bottle. Of course, I like praise God, thank everyone around me, all the small stuff. But yeah, I like to have fun. I like to party. I like to do fun stuff. Go on a roller coaster. I haven't gone skydiving yet. It's on the list. I'm trying to get someone to go skydiving with me, but I don't know.
Look, she's shaking her head like, not me. I mean, yeah. I personally think that celebrating your wins is a part of a really important part of the journey and the process. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in the like hustle and bustle of it all, and that we never take a moment or step back and say, hey, I did that. You know what I mean?
You're right. A lot of people don't sometimes know, but you do got to take a moment to pat yourself on the back sometimes. You know what I mean? Because what are you doing it for? I mean, it's all about the win. You know what I mean? People look at the dollars and all that. It's all about the win.
Right.
It's all about doing something fun and what you love to win.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in a basketball game, what do you do after you win the championship? Everyone's picking each other up and throwing water on the coach. You know what I mean? It's a celebration.
Absolutely. And I mean, you talked about, just even meditating and going to a space, and whenever you get off the plane and you're in a place near a beach, you go straight there and you like meditate and balance. So absolutely. I think you kind of got it down for yourself.
Well, it took me a while to get there.
It took you a while?
Yeah. It wasn't something I just naturally knew. Just through life experience and observing and learning things. I just, and I'll go in the sauna a lot. I go in the sauna like 4 times a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get all of that out.
Gotta get
all of them bottles you be popping at the club.
Gotta get it out. Yeah, for sure. That's a fact.
So let's talk about your style of production. How would you describe your style of production? Like, why do people come to Jbeatzz if they want a beat? What is it?
A unique quality sound. You know what I mean? I bring, everyone, you got beat makers, you got producers, shout out to the beat makers, shout out to the producers. I just happen to be both. I'm a beat maker and a producer.
And what's the difference?
Like a producer can make a beat, can, get in the studio with an artist and actually record the artist, vocal produce, turn a beat into a record.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can go in there and record with the artist. I can make the beat, record with the artist, structure the songs, put in all the breaks, all the automation, all the switches, just things that I hear people that your average person wouldn't hear.
Right.
I can do. I do all my production inside Pro Tools.
Gotcha.
So I know how to manipulate sound to how I want it to shape. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the engineering background, I'm sure, helps.
Oh, yeah. It's a cheat code. Yeah, straight up.
For sure.
Yeah.
So,
because not too many people produce inside Pro Tools. But I mean, I might start. I mean, I'm an MPC guy. I start out from rolling MC909s, MPCs to Logic, but I evolved into Pro Tools because I've been using this DAW for almost 15 years, and I just know it so good.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what software gear can't you live without? Obviously, we're talking about Pro Tools.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah.
You need Pro Tools. What else can't you live without?
Water.
In terms of production.
Weed. Let me.
You back on your bully.
Water, weed, Pro Tools, good energy. I mean, I need great energy. Like a lot of people, sometimes when they go through things in their lives, they say they write the best music. I write the best music when I'm happy. You know what I mean? When I'm happy and everything is balanced in my life and I'm so inspired. When I'm the happiest, I do the most in the great way.
Same. So let's talk about just like the process and how it continues. Like, can you recall a moment where you were going through the struggle? Those days where you were at Stankonia and you were like trying to get your next move, trying to get your next gig, to then having your highs and your lows, the peaks and the valleys. Like, talk about that process and like how and why it's important for you to experience that. I mean, if you've even figured it out.
Well, what a lot of people don't know is like when I was interning at the studio, my day job, I was a door-to-door salesman.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Did you have any other jobs?
Yeah.
Door-to-door salesman. What were you selling?
I was selling steak, seafood, and chicken.
Really?
The trucks with the freezer in the back of that shit. I took food stamps, credit cards, and all.
Oh, you were hustling.
I was knocking on people's doors. I worked Southside. I worked Bankhead. I worked Hamilton Road, all that shit.
Wow.
Like, that is seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just pulling up with the
Just
with
pulling
the truck.
out with the motherfucking truck. It was like, hey, ma'am, I got...
That's a different hustle.
I was like, hey, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. I got some great deals on steak, seafood, and chicken. It's like, what you got? Steak, seafood, and chicken? Come here, let me show you what I got. And they walk right over. Majority of my customers was women, you know?
Of course.
Yeah.
No, I already know. I already know who you... I probably didn't see you on vacation.
I sold the trunk, you know, while I was an intern, you know what I mean? And then I was able to transition over. Yeah, that ass.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What other odd jobs did you have prior to?
Man, I worked, when I was in Connecticut, I worked at a submarine shop. I was a carpenter at Electric Boat where they actually manufacture submarines. What? I worked there for a year. I did roofing. I did masonry. I did cooking. I was security guard. I worked at Burger King when I was 16. I gave everyone I knew from school free food. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, and I got fired from Burger King too.
For giving away free food?
No, they never caught me doing that. No, I got fired because a customer was at the drive-thru. I was like, I'll be right with you. He's like, I ain't got time to wait. I said, well, don't fucking come here then.
And they were like, that's it. That's enough.
It was a mutual respect. It was like, you're a great worker, Josh, but I gotta let you go. I was only 16. I ain't give a rat's ass.
Right. You're 16. So you've been working your ass off since you were 16.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do your family and your parents feel like about where you've come, you know, where
they're definitely proud of me, you know, definitely proud and accomplished. Like, you know, my dad, he invested what he could into me, you know what I'm saying, as far as helping me getting through college and all that, you know, and then my mom, she just had, my mom is a great support system.
Do they understand what you're doing?
They support what I'm doing.
Right. I oftentimes wonder, like, you know, with people's families who may not necessarily, like my mom, she doesn't understand what I'm doing. She recently went to a panel that I moderated and it was like, wow, like I was so proud, even though I didn't know what y'all were talking about. You know what I mean? So I think it's a cool thing to see your family.
Well, you know, it's so crazy. Like, I don't know if I want to put that person out there, but this one person was like, man, I didn't think you was going to do it. Really? Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I made it, bitch. I don't know. I mean, it made me feel like a lot of times that's what makes me feel good, because like a lot of people will sleep. A lot of people will underestimate, not even knowing who I am. Even to this day, sometimes a person might not know who I am, but treat me a certain way because the way I look or whatever. And
just not knowing you.
Not knowing who I am, and then the person finds out, and then they're like, want to be my best friend, you know? So I'm used to it at this point in my life.
I mean, that usually motivates us when people doubt us.
Yeah, doubt has motivated me a lot because I want to prove people wrong, you know? And I just want to prove people wrong and just do something great.
Yeah, for sure. So, last, like, you know, words of advice to, you know, not just producers, but anybody who's just like right now, most of the people who listen to this podcast or watch this podcast online, they are budding and they are independent probably, and they just need they need some encouragement. They need motivation of like, why, what's been your why to continue going?
Because I always told myself, like in the beginning, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something great. And I kept believing it. I kept believing no matter on the days that I wanted to quit and the days I just didn't want to do it anymore, I still had to balance myself, maybe take a day off. Sometimes I took a week off, you know what I mean? I think at one time, earlier in my career, I might have stepped away from music for a month or two, you know, because I was so frustrated. But it still found me.
Found your way back.
Found my way back, you know? So just keep going. Just keep going in anything that you're doing, whether it's music or if you want to be the manager at McDonald's. I mean, you just put in your work, you know, and just believe and know. You know what I mean? You got to know what you're shooting, too. You can't just be in an arena and say, I'm just going to do this. But you got to know where you're aiming for. Like me, I was aiming towards doing what I got to do to get on albums, to get on, Grammy nominations, to get platinum. You know what I mean? I told myself I was going to be a platinum producer. I told myself that for a long time. And it finally happened.
It's manifesting.
Yeah,
man.
that's really what it is.
Wow. What would you say, you know, for Jbeatzz, where are you going to be within the next, like, 5 years? What sorts of things are you manifesting now?
Label owner, publisher. You know what I'm saying? I'm signing producers right now. You know, J Clean Enterprises is my publishing company.
Oh, dope! Congrats.
Yup. And I just partnered up with a business partner of mine. We starting something big too right now. You know,
you can't talk about it.
Yeah, it's in the prehistoric part, but we definitely putting a whole plan together.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. It's dope that you have, are able to have access and resources to partners and people who share a vision.
Exactly. For
dope.
Sure. Yeah.
So we didn't really get into the Nicki Minaj Queen album and your work with Coco Chanel.
Yeah.
I know you were in Miami, but how did that come about?
Man,
who'd you know that knew somebody?
I was in the studio, working with working on Nicki stuff for a whole month and at the Hit Factory. Me and Detail was just working. We was working on other projects, but mainly we was there for Nicki, and then I got there's this other producer I was working with out of Canada, her name is Blank. She just sent me a little tiny melody, and I did what I did, freaked the record, and was able to get it played. Like, I remember the night that we played the beat for Nicki. I remember that night. I literally, I partied that night. This was before we played the beat. Mm-hmm. I was partying, and then, in Miami, how the boats and the bridges open up and close. Mm-hmm. Well, when the bridge was opening up, I jumped across the bridge. Right before, yeah.
You are insane.
Oh yeah, I'm nuts. Yeah, and then
I'm happy you made it over.
I was wearing a robe. I was wearing a Versace robe. I had a bottle of Ciroc in my hand, and it was right after the Revolt music conference.
Oh, okay.
It was that. Yeah, I was in the Revolt. Me and Detail and Revolt. I was in there with a Versace robe, drinking Ciroc.
I cannot with you, dog.
Yeah. And I jumped across the bridge. Had it been a hair longer, I would have fell. Yeah. I was good. I cleared it, though. Yeah, I cleared it.
Well, clearly you'd have made it.
Yeah. And then from there, we went back to the studio.
And you still had on a Versace robe.
Yeah, I had on a Versace robe with no shirt. Yeah. And I played that beat in the studio in the A-room at the Hit Factory. Yeah, everyone was in there moving. Everyone was moving. At that moment, I was like, this is a jam right here.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You're hilarious, and you're a little crazy, but I like it. I do enjoy that. I hope to visit Miami with you one day.
For sure.
So,
crazy is controlled, though. It's a controlled crazy.
Oh no, I ain't see you jumping over no bridges and stuff. Okay, yeah. But that's dope. I think just seeing the elevation and how you're able to continue to grow is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's really beautiful. Yeah. And then you not being afraid to evolve is also important.
You have to evolve, or you get left behind. So,
who are some of your influences? In terms of production or any producers that you look up to?
In the very earlier stages, Lil Jon, Timbaland, Pharrell, you know what I mean, coming up, those are some big heavyweights that I inspired. And then as I, got older, the newer producers, I remember when Lex Luger first came out, his beats was so hard. I was like, damn, this dude go hard. He made me want to evolve because I was like, damn, I need to step my game up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So. Yeah, and also I did producer battles back at Apache.
Did you?
Back in 2007
dope.
When that shit was jumping. I used to do all those producers battles,
That's dope.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I battled against Drugs, even with Mike Will, before he was Mike Will, you know what I mean? There was a lot of people, even Sunny Digital. A lot of people used to battle over
I've heard about those.
Yeah. I was part of that era.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's legendary.
How what type of energy was in it in 07 in Apache? You doing producer battles?
Well, what I used to do, I would have a few drinks, and then I'll just get on the stage, and a lot of my beats were just hard bass and hard snares. So I remember some people at battles, when the snare hit, I pretend I was slapping them with the snare, Yeah.
Just give it some entertainment.
Just give it some entertainment. It was all love. It was all for the show.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's dope. Do you think the producer battles? Because, I know there was
the producer battles made me believe in myself.
That's what I'm saying. What did you get from that?
So the moment that I started believing in myself was I beat a producer. I forgot his name, but he was signed to Atlantic at the time. Mm. And I was like, okay, if he's signed to Atlantic, I'm beating him. Then
I'm good.
I'm good. I could really do this. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really believed in myself as a producer. Before, it was just fun. Maybe I'm going to be an engineer because, you know what I'm saying? But at that moment, I was like, you know what? I believe in myself.
That's fine.
300%. Yeah.
That's dope. Well, I'm excited. I'm happy that I was able to sit down with you and just for you to share, you know, just some of the gems, because I think it's going to motivate up-and-coming producers and artists as well.
Yeah, that's one reason why I still do it, because I definitely motivate and inspire a lot of people. I get DMs and, you know, Facebook messages from people just saying, you know, I appreciate you.
Yeah. Keep
going, man. You inspire me, and I appreciate y'all for reaching out to me. That makes me feel really warm inside, you know.
Oh, Jbeatzz. Yeah. So what's next? What can we look out for? Is there anything aside from what you mentioned?
Well, I definitely got in the studio recently with an ATL legend.
Oh,
you know, y'all gonna have to wait on this one, but let's just say he was part of that era when I first moved to Atlanta.
Fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I already know that.
Yeah. So
that's exciting.
That's very exciting. So you know, I cut a couple records with him. So we seeing where the vibe goes. I'm working with writers, working with the labels. I'm submitting projects to the label. So I need writers. I need more and more writers. Just people where I could just, you know, send out a couple beats and you write some dope hooks and songs and send it back to me so I could do what I do and set it out. So
you're going to get a lot of inquiries now. I'm really happy and excited for you. And thank you again. Tell them where they can find you and they can reach out to you.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Jbeatzz. It's JBEATZZ. And if you want to send me some music, some beat stuff, you want to collab with me, it's ears@jbeatzz.net. And any booking, if you're trying to get me in the studio, any booking, that's booking@jbeatzz.net.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you so much again for sitting down with me. And as always, you all can find this podcast at IDM Podcast on social media, as well as myself on all social media platforms at Sammy Approved. Peace.
All right.
Thank you. Sonically superior.